Welcome to another episode of Mostly Mets. I'm Jimmy Mack, and today what we're going to be doing here is previewing the upcoming series between the Mets and the Cardinals. The Mets are coming back home after a disappointing series against the Twins where they did lose 2 out of 3, the last game in kind of a heartbreaking fashion in extra innings, but we're moving on, and we're now focused on the Cardinals. The Mets come in at 11-7, still in first place in the NL East. At the time of recording, the Phillies haven't played their game yet today, so I don't know if they're tied or they're still a game ahead. Doesn't really matter. This early in the season, just being in first place is fine. They're still playing well. They're 11-7, so you can't complain too much about the start, even though that series against the Twins was definitely disappointing, to say the least. The Cardinals come in at 9-9 and in fourth place in the NL Central. They started off kind of bad, especially pitching-wise. They've come back as of late. They've been a much better team. And overall, they're kind of a 500 team. They've had a couple of really good players on their roster so far, a couple of good hitters, some really good starting pitching, honestly. They've pitched pretty well. So I think it should be a good series. I think the Mets coming home is going to do well for them. It's been a week or so since they've been home, so it'll be nice just to get them back in New York. The weather should be a little bit better during this series. It is a 4-game series, so most of the times these things end up in splits, but you hope to be able to take 3 out of 4. That would be the goal. But overall, I think it's a pretty good, well-matched series. All right, the first thing we're going to do, it's what we do in every series preview. We're going to go through the team leaders, both in offensive and pitching for both teams. First, we're going to do the Mets, and if you look at the Mets offense, you can see that Pete Alonso is their most important player right now. He leads in every major statistical category. He's hitting .365. He's got 5 home runs, 21 RBIs, a .474 on base, and a 1,200 OPS. So he's tearing the cover off the ball. It's probably the best start he's ever had to a season. And honestly, without him, I don't know what the Mets' record would be right now. They would probably be under 500. He's been indispensable for this team, and I'm so happy that he came back. Honestly, at this point, even no matter what else he does the rest of the year, he's proven his value early in the season. He's carried this team, and without him, the Mets are probably in really bad shape right now with the struggles of Lindor and Soto and Nimmo. We've needed Pete, and he's needed every one of those RBIs, every one of those home runs. They've all been important. And it's not even just the power. It's his plate discipline. His at-bats have been so much better than last year. He just looks like a different hitter. He's going up the middle and to the other side, the opposite field. He's not just trying to pull everything, but he's shown that he is able to pull the ball too and hit a home run like he did the other day. So overall, Pete Alonso has been invaluable to this team, and you can see as he leads in every statistical category offensively. Now, if you look at the pitching, there's some mixed bag here. You have 3 guys tied at 2 wins. That's Holmes, McGill, and Senga. They all have 2 wins. The ERA leader is Senga with a 1.06 ERA. Technically, he's not qualified for the ERA lead, so really it's McGill at 1.4, but there's like a 1-inning difference that makes Senga not qualified. So at the end of the day, Senga has probably been their best pitcher so far, even though he hasn't been able to go deep into games until his last start, but he's really showing that he may be becoming the Senga of old again. If you look at the innings pitched, it's Clay Holmes with 19 2/3 innings. Another guy who's really struggled to get deep into games, but when he's on, he has good stretches where he's really dominant, and then he just kind of blows up, and he's been walking guys and all that. But he is leading the team in innings right now. He's also leading the team in strikeouts at 28. So you could see he does have dominant stuff. He does have swing and miss stuff. He just hasn't been consistent enough this season. And then and on the saves, we have Edwin Diaz, another guy who's been very up and down. He's been one good game, one bad game. Today's game in the last game of the Twins series, he did pitch in a non-save situation, which he usually does very poorly in. He did give up a base runner, and then a stolen base that wasn't a stolen base because it got overturned, and then he was able to dominate the rest of the inning. So overall, good stuff from him today, and he's the team leader in saves. All right, now moving on to the Cardinals offense, you see that there's multiple guys really contributing on that team. You have Brandon Donovan with a 380 average, so obviously a scorching hot start, hitting close to 400. Ivan Herrera has 4 home runs, and that leads the team. Donovan and Herrera lead in RBIs with 11. On base percentage, you have Lars Nootbaar at 422. And Brandon Donovan leads in slugging with the 965. So they have some guys contributing. Now, there's not those huge numbers like Pete Alonso with his 21 RBIs, but it just up and down their lineup, they've all kind of contributed. They've been pretty good. If you look at their OPS as a team, it's way higher than the Mets is. And they just, their averages, everything is a little bit higher than the Mets. If you take Pete Alonso off the Mets, they would struggle. But there's multiple guys on the Cardinals who can perform at a high level right now. If you look on the pitching side, it's really one guy dominating everything, and that's Sonny Gray. He has the most wins, the best ERA, the most innings pitched, the most strikeouts. He's got everything going for him so far this year. He's been very good, and the Mets will face him in this series. He's not a guy you're necessarily scared of. His only problem is he's given up some home runs, but he has been a really good pitcher for the Reds this year, and like I said, we're going to see him, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, those are the team leaders for both teams so far. All right, now we're going to get into the pitching matchups in this series. And in Game 1, we should have Griffin Canning coming back from his illness, going up against Andre Palante. And this is one that the Cardinals probably have the edge on. But either way, there's so little sample size this year that you don't really know how great guys are going to be. Canning, we've seen good and bad. He has not been able to go deep into games. I'm not so confident he's going to be able to go deep in this game because if he is coming off of like a flu bug kind of thing, he might not have the endurance or the energy to be able to go 5 or 6 innings. So you might see another 4-inning start out of him, 4 2/3. Just hope he keeps the walks down. He's been pretty effective if he's been able to stay in the zone this year. He's got, in his first start, he had a bunch of strikeouts. If he is in the zone and pitching, consistently, he's looked really good. It's just once he starts falling behind hitters, he doesn't really have the stuff to be able to put guys away, and they can kind of wait him out. And if he's throwing balls, they can just wait for one down the middle, and that's where he runs into trouble. He also seems to run out of gas really quickly, and that's been an issue with him. And coming off an illness, I don't really know how much you're going to get out of him. Palante so far this year, he's 2-0 with a 2.20 ERA. He's given up 17 base runners in 16 innings, and he has 13 strikeouts. So a pretty good season so far. His ERA is down. He's been able to limit runs, and basically one guy on base per inning, a 1 whip, very good. So this is, I think, a bad matchup for the Mets, only because I think Canning might struggle. For the reasons I said, coming off of an illness, I don't know what he really has in the tank. He might only give you 4 innings, and hopefully that's not the case, but that's what I'm kind of worried about here. He's already a guy who doesn't go deep. He's already a guy that you're not putting in third time through the order, so we have to see what we get out of him, and I don't think it's going to be very much, to be honest. All right, in Game 2 of this series, we have David Peterson going up against Miles Mikolas. Peterson has been pretty good this year. He's had his moments where he hasn't been, where he's gotten a little wild, but overall he's been consistent from the first game. He's really, I think he's turned himself into one of the Mets' more reliable pitchers, and I'm just confident when he's out there. I know he's not going to strike out 12 or 15 batters. That's not his game. He's kind of a soft tosser, not soft, but he's not a hard thrower. He's a good crafty lefty who I think can get some guys out. So far this season, he's 1-1 with a 2.7 ERA. He's given up 23 base runners in 16 2/3 innings, and he has 17 strikeouts. So the tertiary numbers don't necessarily look great, but he gets the job done, and that's what he did all of last year. And everyone said regression is going to come because his advanced metrics don't look great. But some guys just know how to get the job done. When they're in trouble, they can get out of it, and he's just one of those guys. So I do have confidence when he pitches, and I do have confidence in this game because they're going up against Mikolas, who's really struggled the last couple years. He has not been good. He was once kind of one of those guys who maybe was going to become a really good starting pitcher, and he kind of fell off. So I think this is a good matchup. Mikolas in 3 starts is 0-2 with 13 innings pitched. He has a 9 ERA. He has 10 strikeouts. He hasn't been hit with the walks hard. He's got 5 walks. But he's given up, I think, 16 hits. So he has put runners on base, and he gets into trouble. He's not a super high strikeout guy. So you can hit him. I think the Mets should hit him, even though they haven't really been hitting anyone lately. He seems like a guy they can hit. And Peterson, I trust in, and I think they can get the job done in Game 2. All right, now in Game 3, we have Kodai Senga going up against Matthew Liberatore. I don't know how to say that. I think I'm saying it right. Senga so far, 2-1, 1.06 ERA. He's given up 17 base runners in 17 innings, and he's got 18 strikeouts. So, yes, he had kind of an up and down in his first couple of starts. His last start, he went 7 innings, and he looked really strong. He looked like the Senga of old. And I heard a lot of, chatter from the WFAN guys questioning, I think it was Sal Licata questioning his ability to be an ace or his ability to be a number 1 pitcher because he came out after 79 pitches. At the end of the day, the guy's still on a pitch count. He's coming off a season in which he did not pitch. He did pitch somewhat, but he did not pitch much. And to criticize him for that, for trying to get his mechanics right, trying to get right, is just whatever. They're a clickbait station at this point. Doesn't really matter. But it was good to see him be the Senga of 2023 and not the guy that we saw in the playoffs last year really struggle, and even really how he struggled in spring this year and in his first couple of starts. So it was really good to see, and I think we're going to see more of that Senga going forward than the Senga of this spring or in the playoffs last year. He seems like he's back, or at least getting back. I believe in Senga. I think he is kind of our ace at this point. And we'll have to see. Going up against Liberatore, 1-1, 3.93 ERA. He's had 18 base runners in 18 1/3 innings with 18 strikeouts. So I think he's been pretty good. He's been able to limit his walks. He's given up some hits, but he's able to get out of the jams. About a 4 ERA, nothing to write home about, nothing to be upset about, kind of a mid-rotation starter. But he is a pretty good pitcher, so I think the Mets can hit him, and I like our chances with Senga going up against a guy like that. We'll see. Obviously, it's something that we always should feel confident when Senga's on the mound, and coming off of the last start, and now he's going to have the extra day's rest, I really do think he's going to get the job done, and we're going to see that Senga the rest of the season. All right, now in the last game of this series, we have Clay Holmes for the Mets against Sonny Gray for the Cardinals. Clay Holmes, obviously we talked about it, he has been kind of up and down. He's lost his command. He's had some issues with walks, and not only walks, but just kind of being wild and getting behind on counts and rising up his pitch count really early in the games. But he does have good stuff, and I think we're kind of in that position with him where we're one start away from being like, oh, okay, this is Clay Holmes now. And it could be in a bad way or it could be in a good way. We need to see him go 6 innings, 6 2/3. We need to see him go deeper into the games. It's almost like he gets into the 5th inning and he really it's some mental thing, because he always gets through 4 innings fine, and then he gets into the 5th and he really starts to struggle and lose his command. Now, he's coming off of being a reliever for 7 years or however long it's been. So I understand it's going to take time for him to really stretch out and become a starting pitcher. But at this point, if he can't do it continuously, if he can't make that transition soon, then you're going to have to talk about maybe he's just a long reliever, or maybe he is just a 5-inning pitcher or a 4-inning pitcher, and maybe we put him back in the bullpen. I don't think we're there yet. I think that's still maybe mid-season or something like that. But you're coming to a point where he has to show that he is able to be that guy. He is able to go 6, 7 innings in a game. You're going to need that, right? When you get to the playoffs, if Clay Holmes is your number 3 starter, which he should be at that point, if you talk about having Senga and Minaya, who's the next guy? Maybe Peterson, maybe Clay Holmes. I wouldn't necessarily trust Tyler McGill unless he does what he's been doing so far this year for the entire year. But he's an important piece. He's your third or fourth starter, and he needs to be that. So I think we're at a tipping point here where we have to see him get into the sixth inning, get into the seventh inning, to really feel confident in him as a starting pitcher going forward. I still have confidence that he can do it. I know a lot of fans are already kind of turning on him and saying he's a reliever, he can't do it, the Yankees were right, he was not a starter. We'll see. I'm still in the camp of he shows enough dominance that he can be that starter, that really good middle of the rotation starter for us, who has glimpses of being great. And now they're going up against Sonny Gray. Gray has been their best pitcher this year by far. He's 3-0 with a 3.13 ERA. We went through the stats before. 23 innings pitched, 23 strikeouts. He's only walked 3. So he's only had 18 base runners in 23 innings with 23 strikeouts. The issue for Gray, and it has been his whole career, is the home runs. He's already given up 4 home runs this year, and that's what's really hurt him. If it wasn't for those home runs, he would be probably leading the majors in pitching stats at this point. He's been that good. It's just the home runs, and it's always been that for him. And hopefully the Mets can take advantage of that. I'd like to see Soto and Lindor and Alonso. They have guys who can hit home runs. So go out and do it against a guy like Gray. And then that's really should be the game plan. Just swing at good pitches and hit them out, right? But this should be a good game. I think Clay Holmes versus Sonny Gray is going to be probably the best game of the series. Now I'm going to do some notes for both teams, just some general kind of goings on around these two teams. First, obviously, Met fans, we know we just lost 2 out of 3 to the Twins in Minnesota. Disappointing series. We're going to move on. It was a terrible series. I'm still not really over it, but we're just going to move on. It's still early in the season, and you're going to have losses and series losses that you're not going to feel good about, and that's just one of them. Alonso, obviously, raging hot still, getting like 2 hits every game. He's just an on-base machine. He's hitting doubles. He's hitting home runs. He's getting walks. He's just always on base. Seems like every time he's up to bat, he's coming through, and it really has been his best start of his career. On the other hand, you have guys like Lindor, Soto, and Nimmo are all really struggling. Now, it may not look like it. You're seeing Lindor and Soto getting hits, right? I mean, even Soto had 2 home runs in the last series. But then he went 0 for 5 in his last game. So to me, I see him hitting home runs in consecutive games, and I'm thinking, okay, he's breaking out. And usually when guys break out of their slump, they get hot. It's not like, oh, they hit a home run here and a home run there and then maybe a hit here and a double there. No, they go 4 for 5 the next day, or they go 3 for 4 the next day. He hasn't broken out. He's been very inconsistent. Same thing with Lindor. You're seeing Lindor get hits. He's hitting doubles. He's getting singles. He's getting on base. But he just hasn't been consistent. He'll have a game where he gets 2 hits, and the next 2 games he gets no hits, and he looks bad at the plate. I guess he kind of has been getting a hit every day, or at least getting on base every day. But it just doesn't, you can tell. If you watch every game, you can tell Lindor's just not right. He's not been consistent. And Nimmo at this point has really, he had a little hot streak in the last series. He hit a couple home runs. He does have 4 home runs this year. His batting with runners in scoring position has been awful. Listen, I'm criticizing these guys because they are the leaders of this team. They are the leaders of this offense, along with Pete Alonso, and they just haven't gotten it done. This doesn't mean that I don't think that they will get it done. This doesn't mean that I think that they're terrible. I need to see more, and you haven't seen any consistency out of any of those 3 guys. And they're your big guys with Alonso. Alonso's been the only one that's really held up his end. So those guys are struggling. It's been tough to see how much they've really struggled. They've killed rallies. They've killed the offense. But on the other hand, to me, from watching, it looks like Vientos and Beatty might be coming along a little bit here. Beatty had another hit today. I think he had 2 hits, actually, or he's on base twice. He had a double yesterday. He had a triple the night before. So he has been picking it up. We're not seeing him strike out on everything or grounding the ball to the second baseman on everything or popping it up. He's been hitting the ball harder, he's been working better counts, and he's looked a lot better. So if I'm going to criticize him when he's doing poorly, I have to praise him when he's doing well, and he has looked better. Vientos, they sat in the last game against the Twins, but the couple days before that, he was swinging at better pitches, he was having better at-bats, he had a couple of extra base hits, so it seems to me like he's starting to come out of it. Hope that's the case, because we're going to need Vientos especially as one of our big middle-of-the-lineup bats if we're going to be a real great team this year. And so far, he just hasn't shown that. He doesn't have a home run yet this year. I think he has like 3 or 4 RBIs. He just hasn't performed. And that sophomore slump might be starting to hit him, but it does look like he might be coming out of it now. Also, another guy who seems like he's kind of coming around is Acuna. Acuna has, for the first couple weeks of the season, we were upset because Beatty and Acuna were both playing terribly. Now we're at a point where they're starting to play a little bit better. Acuna's getting on base, he's scoring runs, he's stealing bases. He's playing good defense. He did have a weird play in the last game of the Twin series where he kind of mishandled the ball, or he tripped, he fielded the ball and he kind of fell over and then made a bad throw. Part of that whole sloppy defense in that series. But overall, he has been really good, and he gives the Mets something that they don't have, which is athleticism and speed. And having him, I don't know why you hit him 6th. That was a little confusing to me in this game. He should be either at the top of the lineup or at the bottom of the lineup because of that speed and what he brings in that way. But I like what I see out of Acuna lately. There was those rumors that he was not playing well in the minors and in spring because he was bored, and he doesn't seem bored right now. He seems like he's going out there ready to play, and he's been playing pretty well. So those are really the Mets notes. Obviously, we could say the same things every one of these videos. The offense has not performed well and has not been consistent. This is what's really going on with the Mets. All right, moving on to the Cardinals. They took 2 out of 3 in their last series from the Astros. The Astros are scuffling, but we know the Mets played them the first series and lost 2 out of 3, but they were able to take 2 out of 3 against the Astros. So they're coming off a nice series win. We talked about it before. Brandon Donovan has played extremely well so far this season. He's leading the team in a lot of categories. He's hitting .380 with a .965 OPS, off to a great start. He's been really good this year, and we have to try to keep him down in this series against the Cardinals. Sonny Gray, we talked about him as well. He's been great this year. He leads them in all the categories. There's not much more to say. He's been really good, except for those home runs. If he could just keep those home runs down, he would be a great pitcher. Obviously, that's always been a problem with him his entire career. And the starters in general, it's not just Sonny Gray, but the starters in general, if you look at their starting rotation, they've all been great. They all have good ERAs. They're good quality pitchers for the most part. A couple guys are, Mikolas hasn't been that great. But even you look at Steven Matz has pitched well this year. They've done well as a starting staff, but their bullpen is below par. Their bullpen is not very good, and that has been their downfall pitching-wise. I think they have a 4.1 ERA as a team, something like that, and their starters are in the 3s, and their bullpen's in the mid to high 4s. So they've not pitched very well out of the bullpen. They've been better lately. They started off really bad, and they've gotten a little bit better, but they're a bullpen that you can definitely hit. One guy in that bullpen who has had a good start to his season is former Met Phil Maton. He has pitched 9 innings so far this year and has yet to give up a run. Not something we saw with the Mets last year. He did have some moments, some stretches where he was really good for the Mets, but once he got into the playoffs and into real stressful situations, he struggled. He's the kind of guy who he doesn't pitch well against really good teams. So I hope we see him because I think the Mets can hit a guy like Maton. He's kind of a picker, and if he's not in the zone or not right where he needs to be, he's a guy that they can hit. But so far, he's started off the season great, and I'm happy for him. Any 2024 Met that does well, I'm happy for. All right, now, these are what I think are the keys of the series for the Mets. The first one is, like we just talked about, get to the bullpen. And what I mean by get to the bullpen is, listen, the Mets have hit bullpens for the last year and a half. They feast on bullpens, but they always struggle against the starters. So in this series, work counts. Get that starter out of there early. If you're going to hit bullpens, that's fine. But then you have to get the starter out of there early. You can't have a guy go 6 or 7 against you and then have 2 innings or 3 innings to try to come back. So let's get to the bullpen. Knock the starters out in 4 in the third innings. Knock them out in 5 innings. And then just by working their pitch count up, get walks, get on base. Even if you don't score, just get them out of the game so you can get to that weak bullpen that the Cardinals have. I think that should be the game plan on offense. Grind out at-bats, grind these pitchers down. It's what they did a couple years ago. It's what they did last year. They would grind pitchers down. They would make the pitcher's life miserable for 4 innings, so he had to come out with 89 pitches after 4 innings. It's what they did. Even if they didn't score against them, they knocked them out early, and then they feasted on bullpens. If that's what they're going to do again, if they're going to start games slow, at least grind out at bats, get the starter out of there early, and feast on a bad bullpen. That's the first key. The second, we talked about it, Lindor and Soto and Nimmo, but especially Lindor and Soto need to get going. Soto, we talked about it. He had 2 home runs in the last series, but he hasn't been an impact bat. He hasn't hit necessarily the big home run or gotten the big hit. He's been bad with runners in scoring position. He just hasn't. He's still pressing. And that article came out in the Post about, he doesn't have Judge behind him anymore. That was all clickbait. That was all garbage. There was nothing to that article whatsoever. He was asked a question and he answered it. He wasn't complaining. He wasn't saying that was all blown out of proportion. And then after that article, he goes out the next 2 nights and hits home runs. So the article meant nothing, but he just needs to be more consistent. That's all. You can look at his numbers and say his on-base percentage is still pretty good. Well, it's not Juan Soto good, and his OPS is still pretty good, but it's not Juan Soto good. And he still has, 3 home runs, and he's still contributing. Well, he's hitting 240, and his on-base percentage is down to 360 now. So it's not like the excuses that we made of he's still fine. Well, yeah, fine, but not Juan Soto fine. So we need to see him become that impact bat that we know he is and that we know he will be for the next 15 years, or at least 10 or 12 of those years. Maybe the last 3 to 5 aren't going to be great, but for at least the next 10 years, we need to see the real Juan Soto, not this Juan Soto that we're seeing right now. We will. I have confidence in it. Lindor, obviously, he always gets off to slow starts. This year hasn't been the slowest start. It's not as bad as last year. I think last year in May, he was still hitting under 200. It's not that bad of a start, but he has no consistency yet. And he's also kind of bringing it out onto the field, which is something that's never happened before. It seems like he's getting sloppy on the field, and that brings me to the last key to the series, is they need to play better fundamental baseball. You see in the last series against the Twins, the first inning, a rally gets killed because Winker rounds third and tries to score, and it really just, you could have had second and third with nobody out, and now you have a guy on second with 1 out, and it's not the same thing, right? Everyone knows that. I'm sorry, I think it was the second inning, not the first inning. But still, the fact remains, bad base running decision, I guess not base running, bad base coaching decision, sending him there, and he still almost beat it. And listen, that's still a chance that you take. That's still a chance that's not terrible. But in that position, in that point of the game, you'd rather have second and third, nobody out, than a runner on second, 1 out. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Doesn't seem very fundamental. I understand it's more on the third base coach for sending him, but better fundamentals there. You also saw a very sloppy defensive team. Not even just in this series, but really all season so far. You've seen Lindor really cost us 2 games with bad defense, which is something that's crazy. You would never think that would happen with Lindor. You understand early in the season, he doesn't hit well, he struggles offensively, but he still always brings a great glove, even when he's struggling offensively. So seeing him bring his problems at the plate onto the field has been bad, right? We don't see that. Then you have Acuna making a weird play in the last game, stumbling over. Maybe it's not his fault. He stumbled. I get it, but that's a sloppy play. We saw in the Marlins series earlier, bad throws to home, and then to end the game in the 10th inning, Tyrone Taylor unable to field a ball and allowing a run to score. Would he have thrown him out? I don't know, but he would have at least had a chance. If he comes up with that ball, you have a chance to throw him out at home, and he just completely botched it, and it was an easy walk in for the winning run. So at the end of the day, they need to play better fundamental baseball, and it's strange because they're a good fundamental team. They're a good defensive team. You have Lindor is one of the best shortstops in the league. You have Torrens at catcher, one of the best catchers in the league. You could say what you want about Pete Alonso. He's really good at scooping, and he looks so much better defensively this year. He really does. You look at even in the outfield, now that Siri's out, Taylor's still a really good outfielder. Nimmo, maybe he's lost a step, but he's still a fine outfielder. Soto, yeah, you worry about in right field, but he kind of has shown that he gets to most things. He just makes bad judgments on balls sometimes. And at third base, you have Vientos, who's I don't love at third base. Seeing Beatty in there at third base, you kind of like, oh, this is a real third baseman. Now, Vientos has a super strong arm, and that's part of what's great about his defensive game, but he bobbles balls and he makes wrong decisions sometimes. Don't love him at third base. I'd like to see some Beatty at third and Vientos DHing. Not every day, but maybe get a day of Beatty at third and see how it all works out. I don't want to make Vientos a full-time DH, but we could see that. If Beatty needs to play, he should play third base and put Vientos at DH. But yeah, those are really the keys to me. And really the biggest key, and it's been the key in every one of these videos I make, is more offensive consistency. We can't have Pete Alonso be the entire offense. We can't have one great game from Lindor and Soto and then 3 terrible ones. You just can't. And they're not going to continue to play good baseball if those guys aren't hitting and they're not consistently hitting. I understand it's early in the season. It's cold. It's hard to play baseball in the cold. But and I do agree that they'll be better when it starts to warm up. But we need to start seeing it. We need to start seeing signs of consistency. 1 home run or 2 home runs or a double here or a double there. It's not consistent. And that's what we need. So overall, I think this will be a good series. The Mets hopefully can take 3 out of 4. I would guess on a split, just because that's the way 4-game series generally work, especially when you're playing a team like the Cardinals, who are a decent team. They're not great. They're not bad. They're somewhere in the middle. I think I predicted them to be a lot worse early in the season, but a guy like Arenado has started off pretty well. And they've had Lars Nootbaar has started off well. They've had some players who really have stepped up. Their starting pitching at least, has been good. So I think this will be a good series. It'll be a good test. Come home to Queens and play good baseball in front of your home crowd. Hopefully there's a lot of fans there. And I don't really have anything else. So until next time, let's go Mets.